Good afternoon, Mets fans, and welcome to a Thursday edition of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and I've been away for a couple of days, and I'm coming at you today with a long overdue driving, and I want to talk about a few things. We're about a half an hour or so away from the start of a 1:10 game that will be where the Mets will be facing the Marlins in Port St. Lucie, and on the mound for the Mets will be Matt Harvey. I want to talk about Harvey in just a little bit, but first I want to talk about some activity that's been flurrying around baseball since the last time I recorded. Since my last recording, which was on Friday, there's been a lot of activity with the free agents in baseball. Two of them were on the Mets radar, or I guess I should say were on Mets Twitter's radar, and another was not, but it's worth talking about. So first let's talk about the two guys who returned to their former squads. That would be Mike Moustakas and Carlos Gonzalez. Now, there was really nothing formal from the Mets as far as making offers to those two guys, but certainly Mets Twitter wanted the Mets to sign Moustakas and perhaps to a lesser degree Cargo, or at least maybe look at them. The bottom line is, of course, these two guys both signed extremely inexpensive deals, 1-year deals with options, both of them, to return to their respective clubs, the Kansas City Royals and the Colorado Rockies. And of course, you know, this is one of those hindsight 2020 scenarios where, you know, Mets Twitter's like, well, how come the Mets didn't offer this kind of contract to these guys? And you know, it's hard to fault when the Mets, you know, renewed Asdrubal Cabrera's $8 million, picked up Cabrera's $8 million option when they re-signed Reyes for $3 million. It was hard at that time to look at Moustakas, and even to a lesser extent when the Mets signed Todd Frazier to the 2-year, $17 million deal. It's hard to look at Moustakas and be like, this guy's going to fall right into our laps. You know, it's hard to do that in December and January, knowing that the offseason was going to unfold the way it did. Nobody would have expected that. Certainly Mike Moustakas didn't expect to be back with the Royals for $6 million. But that's the way things unfolded, and it's not fair to judge Sandy Alderson and to judge the Mets, and really to judge any team in baseball for not making these kinds of deals, because look, you can't wait till the last minute and hope that something like this does happen. The odds of the offseason unfolding the way it did were slim to none, and they ended up doing exactly what no one expected, and these guys were available for cheap, and their clubs brought them back. So, you know, looking at it now, would you rather have would you rather have Mike Moustakas for $6.5 million, or would you rather have Asdrubal Cabrera for $8 million? I mean, everybody's going to choose Moustakas on that one. I mean, there's no question about it. But it's not in a vacuum. You know, it's not a decision that you can just look at in a vacuum with no other external influences. There's a ton to consider, and there's a ton to look at. And look, the fact that Cabrera's back, he's back. It is what it is. And the fact that Moustakas is back with the Royals, it is what it is. And it just sort of unfolded the way it did. The other acquisition that was made sort of on the other end of the spectrum, at least as far as I'm concerned, so Cargo and Moustakas got much less than I think anyone would have expected. And then there's Jake Arrieta, who, as we now all know, signed a 3-year, $75 million deal to join the Philadelphia Phillies. And that's a strange contract to me. I feel like the Phillies overpaid for him because, you know, it's so late in the offseason, and the season's about to start in 2 weeks. Opening day is 2 weeks from today. And the Phillies spent $75 million across 3 years, you know, $25 million a year for a guy who, again, in my opinion, is on the downside of his career. He is he's not likely to be the Cy Young winner again. That he was. You know, if you look at his numbers from last year, he really did regress. And a lot of people will point out the fact that Arrieta's numbers were significantly improved and significantly helped by the fact that he pitched with that stellar Cubs defense behind him. So the Phillies having Arrieta in their rotation, to me, does not make them contenders. It will make them better. I think it will make them a lot better. It may make them a 500 team, or a team that might finish above 500, but I'm trying to be objective about the fact that I do think the Mets altogether have a better squad right now than the Phillies have. I also think that, again, objectively, the Mets and the Phillies do not have as good a team as the Nationals have. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean anything, because as we saw in 2017, the games are not played on paper, they are played on the field, and anything can happen. Speaking of pitchers who were Cy Young candidates in 2015, moving from Arrieta to, of course, I'm talking about Matt Harvey. Harvey's about to start today's game, and I don't like to put a lot of weight on spring training games and the importance of spring training records and spring training stats. But after Harvey's start last week against the Yankees, which I did watch, and contrary to what everybody else seemed to report, I didn't think Harvey looked that bad against the Yankees. His velocity was good. He was hitting his spots. The complaint was that Giancarlo Stanton hit that monster home run off of him. My complaint is that the umpire didn't ring Stanton up on the previous pitch, which should have been strike 3. But that's neither here nor there. The fact that Harvey is being scrutinized so closely for what happened in his last start, sort of using the fact that, look, these are spring training lineups that Harvey's facing, he should be doing well, not incorrect, but at the same time, Matt Harvey, and forget about Matt Harvey, any pitcher in spring training is working on stuff that they want to get themselves in a position to start the season. So it isn't like they're out there trying to throw a perfect game, or trying to go 7 innings. They know they're going to be going 3 or 4 innings. They know they're going to have a very limited number of pitches, and as such, they tend to mix up what they're going to be doing during their 3 or 4 innings of work. And so I try not to put too much stock in what the numbers look like in spring training. That's not to say that I'm not concerned about other Mets pitchers like Steven Matz, whose ERA is ballooned out of control. But that's based on less than 2 innings worth of work that he wasn't very good in. But it's hard to look at Harvey and be objective. And I'm using that objective word again. But I think Mets fans have a bad habit of expecting too much out of Matt Harvey. And I am focusing specifically on Matt Harvey here because, and he may have done a lot of it to himself, and whether he wanted it or not, the media dubbed him the Dark Knight and made a big deal out of his starts. And frankly, they should have at the time. But that was 2013, that was 2015. It is not 2018 Matt Harvey. I listen to Mike Silva, and I read some of his stuff, and I listened to Mike Silva talk about how Matt Harvey, he doesn't think Matt Harvey is going to be able to transition into being a pitcher. He sort of dubs Matt Harvey a thrower. And ironically, I dubbed Hansel Robles a thrower last week, and I don't think Hansel Robles can become a pitcher. But, Pedro Martinez became a pitcher. And I'm not saying that Matt Harvey is Pedro Martinez, but I think Matt Harvey is a hell of a lot closer to Pedro Martinez than Hansel Robles will ever be. And I do believe that Matt Harvey can become a pitcher who, perhaps like a later day Pedro, or like a Tom Glavine even, was able to, succeed without his best stuff, without the zip on the fastball that he used to have, just to sort of know what pitch to throw and in what count, and how to approach different batters. I haven't seen any evidence that Harvey doesn't know how to do that. The only evidence that I've seen is that Matt Harvey's either been healthy or he's not been healthy. And when he's been healthy, 2013, 2015, we saw the results. We saw what he could do. When he was unhealthy, 2016, 2017, we saw what happened. We saw the results. So very much like this Mets team, Matt Harvey is going to be watched very closely as far as his health, because if he's at full health, I do believe the Mets can get a valuable season out of him, and I do believe that he can reinvent himself, for lack of a better word, as a pitcher who doesn't have to be the ace of a staff to be a really good major league pitcher. And I, for one, am a big Matt Harvey fan. I've made that very clear. I do hope that Matt's able to get to that place, whether it ends up being that he continues his career with the Mets or he's able to find something that he can extend his career with another team. He will be a free agent after this year, so this is a huge season for Matt, and we've talked about it before. I hope he gets there. I hope he's able to make a good season for himself, which will benefit the Mets and will benefit him. So that's going to wrap it up for today. I am woefully overdue on some discussions about opening day lineups and bullpen and the pitching rotation construction. And I do intend to talk about that over the next 2 weeks. As I said earlier, opening day is 2 weeks from today. So it isn't like it's tomorrow and I'm running out of time, but time is running out. So I do plan to do that before the season starts. Over the next 5 or 6 days or so, I'll be talking about what the bullpen will look like, or what I think it will look like. I'll be talking about what the rotation will look like. I'll be talking about the lineups. I'll be talking about the defense. I'll be talking about the bench. I want to try to put this team together in my mind how I think they ought to approach the 2018 season, at least on opening day. So I'll be doing that over the next couple of videos, and of course if any news breaks I'll be talking about that as well. But until the next time, I appreciate your watching. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Mr_Met, and let's go Mets.